nobody's disagreeing
Any
with
big
that.
Well,
inventions
sure, but
since
you
the
asked me
cotton
like, were
gin
there
or
any big
whatever, now
inventions
that
since
we've
the
had women
cotton
in the
gin
No,
or
workplace? And I
what
whatever
think
I
that
now that
said,
we've had women
no,
in the
no, no.
workplace? And I
What
think
I
that,
said, no,
was,
no, no.
what are the
What I said
inventions that we've
was,
had
what are the
now
inventions that
that
we've
have
had
been as
now that
impactful?
have been
Sure,
as
and I would
impactful?
argue that like cell phones and
sure,
the
and I
internet
would
have been
argue
some
that
of
like
the most
cell phones and the internet
impactful
have been some of the
things
most impactful
ever in
things
all of
They've
human
made
history.
an they've made
ever
an
in all
impact,
of
but
human
I
history.
wouldn't
Say
they've
the
made an
most
impact, but I
impactful.
wouldn't say
There's
the
no
most
way that
impactful.
that is
There's
as
no way that
impactful,
that is
because
as
you look, if you look
impactful.
at the reason why I
Because you
say
Wait,
look,
this,
if you
if
where are
you
look
you
look,
at
from? Where do you
the
live?
reason why I say
Wait,
this,
where are you
where
from?
do
Where
I
do you
live?
live?
Yeah,
I live in North
okay,
Carolina.
I'm in Miami.
I live in
I'm
North
talking to
Carolina.
you in
I'm
real
in
time.
Miami.
Both of
I'm
us can see
talking
each
to you
other's
in real
videos, and there's
time.
like
Both of us
10
can
or
see each other's
20,000
videos,
people, and
and
there's
there's
gonna be
like
hundreds of
10 or
thousands of more that
20,000
watch on
people,
a
and there's
YouTube
gonna be
channel
hundreds of
later
thousands
on.
of more that
That
watch
type
on
And
a
of
that's
YouTube
reach
channel
and
later on.
yeah, but
I'm
that type
not
of
That
reach
type
and
and
of
that
reach
communication
and
through the
yeah,
printing
that type
press,
of reach and
like would
communication
never.
through the
It's
printing
I'm
press,
not
like would never.
discounting that.
Yeah.
That's
I'm not
awesome.
discounting that.
But
That's
but
awesome.
look, here's the
But
thing.
that
When you
but
have the printing press,
look,
right?
here's the thing.
Yeah.
When you
Okay.
have the
So you got the
printing press,
printing
right?
press.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, you
Now
got the
we can
printing
have
press.
books that
Cool.
are
Now we
printed
can have
identically.
books that
We
are
don't have to
printed
worry about people
identically. You
tampering
don't
with
have to
books,
worry
tampering
about
with their
people
information,
tampering
right?
with books, tampering with their
However,
information,
the
right?
same way that
However,
somebody could
the
use the
same
printing
way
press
that somebody
negatively,
could
right?
use the printing press
I would
negatively,
argue that
right?
yes,
I would
the way
argue
we can
that yes,
communicate is
the
awesome. We
way we
can
can
reach a lot of
communicate
people.
is
But guess
awesome. We
what?
can reach a lot
Any
of people. But
idiot
guess what?
can get up
Any
here and
idiot
fire up a
can get
freaking
up
live
here and
stream
fire up a
and just
freaking
give the
live
whole
stream
world a
and just
bunch of
give the whole
misinformation,
world a bunch of
right or wrong.
misinformation.
And then people will sit
Right
there
or
and
wrong.
watch it because, like you
And
said
then people
earlier,
sit there
you
and
got
watch it, like you
2-year-olds
said
that's got a
earlier.
screen in
You
front of
got
their face,
2-year-olds
right?
that's got a screen in front of their face,
But a
right?
2-year-old, if you wrote
But a
a book
2-year-old,
that
if you
was
wrote
an
if you wrote a
extremely
book that
negative
was
book,
an extremely negative book,
like I'm not gonna say that
like
guy's name. But
I'm not
if
gonna
you
say
if
that
you
guy's
wrote a
name.
book that
But
was
if you
extremely
if
negative,
you
you don't have to
wrote a
worry
book that
about it.
was
You could put it in
extremely
front of a
negative, you don't have
2-year-old.
to
He's
worry
not gonna
about it.
be
You
able
can put
to
it in front of a
read it like
2-year-old.
that
He's
or
not gonna
even
be able to
comprehend it.
read
But
it
if
like that
somebody's
or
sitting
even
up there
comprehend
on
it. But if
YouTube
somebody's sitting
saying
up there
something
on
crazy
YouTube
and your
saying
kid,
something crazy,
parents are
and
not
your
paying
kid,
attention and the kid is watching it,
parents are
that's
not
an
paying attention,
extremely
and the kid is
negative
watching
impact.
it, that's an
So the
extremely
reason
negative
why
impact.
when I'm saying
So the reason why when
impactful,
I'm
I mean
saying
impactful in a way
impactful, I mean
that is
impactful in a
more
way
beneficial
that is
to
more
human
beneficial
society than
to
negative.
human
That's what
society
I'm saying.
than
Do you
negative.
think that
That's
the
what I'm saying.
internet or
Do you
cell
think
phones
that
have been more
do you think
negative
the
than
internet or
positive?
cell phones have been more negative
It's
than
part of the
positive?
reason we're having so many
It's part of the
difficulties
reason
right
we're
now.
having so many
Sure, I mean, it might be part of it, but I mean, like,
Sure, I
the
mean, it
more
might be part of it, but I mean,
impactful
like,
and powerful the
the more
invention, the more good and
impactful
the
and
more bad
powerful
it
the
can do,
invention, the more
right?
good and the more
Like
bad it can
I agree
do.
to
nuclear,
that.
yeah, like nuclear
Like
research,
nuclear,
gives
yeah,
us
like nuclear
amazing
research,
reactors that can produce a
gives
lot
us
of energy
amazing
relatively
reactors
cleanly,
that
and
can
it also
produce
gives
a
us
lot of
atomic
energy
weapons that
relatively
could
cleanly, and
maybe
it also
end the
gives us
entire
atomic
world,
weapons that could
right?
maybe
And I
end
feel
the
like
entire
cell
world.
phones and the internet are
Right,
similar.
and I feel like cell phones and the internet are
I'm
similar.
34. You seem like an older guy, maybe or
I'm
like around
34.
my
You
age,
seem like an
or
older
maybe a
guy,
little older. But
maybe
like,
or like
I
around
remember
my
growing
age,
up, like
or
if you
maybe a
asked
little
me a
older. But like,
question
I
about
remember
anything, you would
growing
have
up,
pulled out
like
the
if you
fucking
asked me a
Encyclopedia
question about
Britannica
anything, you
to
would have pulled
look
out the
up an
fucking
answer,
Encyclopedia
and now you
Britannica
have
to look
like
up an
the
answer,
world's
and now you have like
information is
the
at your
world's
fingertips. That's an
information is
unbelievably
at your fingertips.
crazy
That's an
advance in technology,
unbelievably
right? Like that's
crazy
the
advance in
but
technology,
don't you
right? Like
think?
that's the
Don't you
But
think that I actually
don't
like
you
reading
think
my
that I
Encyclopedia
actually like
Britannicas?
reading my
Don't you think
Encyclopedia
that's a
Britannica?
little more
Don't you
organic?
think
Don't you
that's
think
a
that
little more
don't you
organic?
think
Don't
that's
you
more
think that
valuable
don't you
when
think
you
it's
actually
more
have to search
valuable
for the
when you
knowledge as
actually have to
opposed to
search for the
someone just
knowledge as
Googling it
opposed to
and
someone just
not knowing for
Googling it
sure if
and
it's
not knowing for
accurate?
sure if it's
Maybe it could be,
accurate?
or there might be a lot of people that just
Maybe it
don't do
could
the
be, or
search
there
at
might
all
be a
because
lot of people that just don't
they
do
either
the
don't
search
have
at
the
all because they
books.
don't
Because if
have
you
they
had one
either
of those
don't have
sets
the
of
books.
Encyclopedia
Because if you
Britannicas,
had
you're
one of
paying
those
like
sets of
a lot of
Encyclopedia
money for a good
Britannicas,
set
you're
of
paying
them,
like a lot of
and then
money
a lot
for
of
a
people
good
just
set
end
of
up
them,
not knowing.
and then a lot of people just end
Um,
up not
I'm
knowing.
I'll give you that.
not to like go too deep into
I'll
this,
give
but
you
just
that.
circling
Not to
back,
like go too deep into
because
this,
you
but
asked me what are
circling
like
back,
really
like
impactful things. There've been
You
really
asked me what are like
impactful
really
things. We've landed
impactful
on the
things. There've
moon,
been
we've got
really
nuclear
impactful
weapons,
things.
we've
We've
got the
landed on
internet.
the moon.
I
We've
agree
got
that these
nuclear
things can be
weapons,
good or
we've got
bad.
the internet.
I
I
understand that
agree
they're
that these things
impactful.
can
It's
be
like
good
when
or
time
bad.
chooses
I
a person
understand
of
that
the
they're
year.
impactful. It's like
You
when
know,
time
like sometimes
chooses
it's
a
a really
person of the
bad
year.
person, sometimes
You
it's a
know,
good
like
person,
sometimes
there's
it's
people
a
that are
really bad person,
impactful.
sometimes it's a good person, there's people that are impactful.
When I look at like the big
When I
differences
look at
that
like
women have
the
right now
big differences
compared to
that
like
women
30
have
years
right
ago,
now
or maybe
compared to like 30
67
years
years
ago,
ago,
or maybe 67
two big
years
things that
ago.
have changed for women are
Two big things
like
that have changed
college
for
and
women
work,
are
and then
like college and
reproduction.
work,
And those are like the two
reproduction.
huge. Those are like
Those are like the two
95% of what has changed women, and then like 5% can be like Instagram,
and then like
social media,
5%
information,
can be
whatever.
like
But I think
Instagram,
those
social
two
media,
things have been huge
whatever.
because it's
But I
allowed
think
women to
those
put
two
off having
things have been
children
huge because it's
by
allowed women to put
using
off
birth
having
control or
children
whatever,
by
and it's allowed women
using
to
birth control or
live
whatever. And
independently
it's
from
allowed
men.
women
They don't
to
have to
live
marry somebody to find a
independently
job.
from men. They don't have to marry somebody to find
And when
a
I look
job.
at these two things, I
When I
don't
look
think
at
these
these
things
two
are going
things,
away. We're not getting rid of birth control, and we're not removing women from work or from school. So given that, and Red Pillars say this all the time, right? We can't think of an idealized world. We've got to look at the world we live in. If that's the world we live in, then I don't think it's enough to tell men that you should just be a top 1%er and then you're going to get a woman, right? You have to find a way to adapt at the world we're in, where women have changed significantly in the past 30 or 40 years. So that's why I talk from that frame of reference. Women are educated.
Testing, testing, testing.
Women do have birth control. So if you want to get a woman, you've got to work harder for it now. Whereas in the past, all you had to do was like just actually work a job and you'd be basically guaranteed a wife.
Well, no, it's not to me, and this is just my opinion. This is not going to be popular with everybody, but in my opinion, it's not about the men being top one percenters. It's not even about taking away what women already have. Like you can't put the cat back in the bag. That's not going to happen. My thing is, it's about carrying on a tradition of what you know works. I feel like in this day and age, we're just on this mission to dismantle everything that came before us, even if it worked.
I mean, so I don't necessarily disagree with you. So progressives or people really far on the left have a habit of wanting to dismantle everything without asking why it was the way that it was, right? So you'll have people on the left saying things like, "Oh, like gender roles are all fake," but it's like, okay, well, we've had like 10,000 years of them. Like, are they really that fake? So I agree with you that there are some traditions that even if we don't carry them on, we at least need to understand like where they came from. But
Mm-hmm.
the world is changing. Even the way that our traditions, show themselves in society changes. And I think that if you don't want to get left behind by the world, like you have to change along with it. Like some things are probably here to stay. Like some type of gendered dynamic in society. Like men and women are different. We're never going to be the exact same. That's never going to happen. But some things will change pretty dramatically, like maybe the way some of those gender roles play out or how dating plays out, and you either adapt or die. And that is the only thing you can do because, like you said before, it's not going back in the box of women not having reproductive rights and of women not working jobs. Like that's not going to change. So you have to figure out a way moving forward as a man, I think.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: while we're in this country, and the men in this country, the men in the West, are practicing this sort of new age of enlightenment. Would you say that men of other countries are doing the same, or would you say that they're pretty much sticking to the traditional construct of what a man is?
I think the West got here first, but I think other countries are slowly starting to go through the same processes that we did. Like, we're just the trailblazers, but they're definitely following suit. So, like, if you go to like the Middle East, the men are going to be uh, quite a bit more traditional. But like even in Saudi Arabia, as of a few years ago, women can drive. If you go to really older countries or places where the roles are a lot older, you're gonna find pretty traditional men. But you'll find that like their birth rates are dropping off. They're not having a ton of children because they're not all dying, to dysentery or some random shit. You will find that like the rest of the world is slowly following in our footsteps, and that seems to be a trend that's not going to change anywhere. Like I don't know any place that's like we are super successful and we have stuck with our traditional roles and nothing has changed. Like all the most successful countries have been moving in this direction, and I can't think of any like counterexamples to that.
Well, the thing about it is there are countries that I'm pretty sure you pay attention to politics. There are countries that have made it a point to make for certain that they don't have certain things on their television shows and they don't have certain literature and things of that nature. What I see in my personal opinion, I see China, I see Russia, I see India making it a point to make sure that they continue to raise traditional men. And when I say traditional men, I mean the more, for lack of a better phrase, the John Wayne, no nonsense type of guy. And I believe that they're doing that so that they can actually build stronger militaries. So I'll pose the question to you that I asked the guy last night that came onto my show. Do you think that the 18-year-olds of our country would be able to storm the beaches of Normandy today?
If they had to, I think you can. I think that I feel like the circumstances create the people to some extent. I think that when you think of like an average 18-year-old today, you think of a guy with blue hair that's like crying on a college campus because he got triggered by something or some shit, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like a lot of people think that, but I think that like if our country were under legitimate threat, or if we had to go and like fight somewhere, like we could do it, right? I mean, like compare for instance like Russia's invasion into Ukraine, which has been a disaster for Russia. Compare that to our invasion into Iraq. Now, whether you agreed or disagreed with that invasion, okay, I'm pretty sure fucking Saddam was gone in like 2 fucking weeks. So like we can say like, yeah, like okay, well,
No comment.
okay, sure, but we can say that like, okay, well, our people are weak, but like when our military has to do shit, like shit gets done like very fucking quickly. And a lot of that is on the backs of like technological improvement and the sophistication of our military today. Like we don't need, I mean, like in a way, that's a good example you bring up because like we don't need people to storm a beach and run in and just get mowed down by machine guns anymore. Like the world has evolved. I don't know if you watch like that combat footage subreddit, but Jesus Christ, people are fucking flying around drones today, just like dropping grenades onto people and killing them. Like it's insane how much the technology has changed for all of that. I think that when you look at places like China and India, I had a guy talk to me about this recently because he got really mad because somebody brought up a similar point that like, oh no, China is very traditional. I think that when you are stuck in like a very developing area and all you can do is like eat, sleep, work, and that's all you've got, then yeah, you're not going to have many like people aren't going to be talking about like, you know, transgender people when they're just trying to fucking survive, right? You're not going to see marches for LGBT rights in you know, in fucking in places where the people are struggling just to get enough food on the table. I agree with you there. But as places in India and China have gotten more successful, as their median incomes have grown, there is a lot of social dissatisfaction in some of these places, whether it's pushing for more gay people to be represented in areas, or whether it's pushing for, right now it's usually representation of government, but there's like this hierarchy of stuff that you push for, where like if you're developing, you're fighting for like, I need fucking food and water. Then it's like, I need good job opportunities. Then it's like, I need representation of my government. I don't want to live in a fucking authoritarian regime. And then once you've got that shit out of the way, then it's like, okay, I think that women should have more rights. I want to talk about LGBT issues. But like when you're still working on that like foundational shit, yeah, you're not going to see much in the terms of like what we fight about for social issues in the West, right? But I mean, to some extent, that I think that's a marker of our progress. Like in some ways, it's really annoying when somebody goes on Twitter and they're like, I encountered a lot of sexism today because like somebody called me a bitch. But in other ways, it's actually really cool because it's like, okay, cool. Well, you in your mind, really bad sexism is somebody calling you a bitch. That's a mark of progress, in my opinion, because it means there's a whole bunch more sexism that you're not experiencing that people in the past did.
Well, I'm not. I'm a traditional guy, so I'm not really into the progressive stuff and all of that because I feel like when we get to the point where we allow like human beings having a imagination is awesome, but I feel like sometimes we've become so successful. It's kind of like what Bane said in The Dark Knight. Success has defeated us. Like I feel like we start going into, when you start looking at intersectionalism, which I don't want to get into a huge debate about that, you know, because I don't want to get I guess canceled. But when you look at intersectionalism, the reason why there's so much conflict there, the reason why there's so much conflict in this country when you have these discussions and these debates and stuff is because we're starting to get off into the weeds with certain ideas and certain ideologies. And it would be one thing if people lived their lives and didn't try to force their lifestyle or force their ideology onto everyone. But that's exactly what we live in nowadays. In fact, we live in a society now where if you're a traditional person, if you believe in certain things, like let's say for argument's sake that you're a religious person, let's say that you're a Christian, let's say that you believe in the nuclear family, let's say that you believe in just being a regular guy with a regular wife and children, you're under attack today by all of the people that are like, oh, you're old fashioned and that's not progressive. And we have to be understanding of this group and that group. You're literally under attack. Like most men that are traditional men are constantly getting a finger wagged in their face. That's the reason why the whole red pill concept and the manosphere, whether it's the white one or the black one, that's the entire reason it exists. Because men feel that they're being marginalized, ostracized from society, and treated like they're just innately toxic, and that's wrong.
So I, again, there are a lot of things that you're agreeing with, or that you're saying that I agree with. I just don't think that they're that gendered. When you talk about like getting off into the weeds with certain ideologies and attacking people for not believing in the right things, I think we do have a big problem with that today in society. I think a lot of it comes from the left kind of having their thumbs on a lot of the levers of cultural power. But I just don't think it's like a gendered thing. That's like a political, ideologically driven thing. Um, Now, when you talk about like men are traditional men and they're getting fingers wagged in their faces, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's happening. I feel like people mix up a lot of the toxic aspects of red pill shit with like traditional things. If you're a good guy, you're working a good job, you go to church, and you're looking for like a traditional partner, you've got your shit handled, I don't think anybody's wagging their finger at you. In fact, because I've talked to a lot of conservative women, I think conservative women are dying to find men like that. But oftentimes, one of the biggest complaints that I hear, and I know men have the loudest voices online, so you hear about like all the whores and sluts and blah, blah, blah. When I talk to traditional women or conservative women, their complaints are always like, I have no fucking idea where you can ever find a good conservative man. They don't exist. It's a bunch of schizoid young men that sit in their basements, play computer games all day, and fantasize about like having a harem of 50 women they fuck, like the guys on Fresh and Fit tell them to do, right? Like I don't feel like places in the manosphere are producing these factories of like good, positive, solid young men that are like good conservative men, because their engagement with religion is really bad. Look at fucking I don't want to go down that whole Andrew Tate road if you don't want to, but like Andrew Tate coming out as Islamic after fucking running a casino and a cam business is like the two biggest, most haram fucking things you can do in Islam, right? Or like a lot of these guys saying we need to embrace more like Christian values while telling you to have one-ended open relationships where you're fucking younger and younger women every year. I don't think that these are the centers of society that are going to be creating the like the traditional conservative man of tomorrow. It's just like the new marketing ploy that's being sold, and then all these guys that are falling into this shit. I call it OnlyFans for men, because it's just like it's rotting and destroying their minds, thinking them or leading them into thinking they're going to be something that they're never going to be, and it's not preparing them for the future in a way that I think a conservative person would be.
Well, I can't really speak for the whole space, but I do know that the vast majority of the guys that watch my show on a regular basis are those traditional type guys. Now, granted, a lot of them are already married, a lot of them are already in relationships, but what they find is here's the issue that they find. Let me break it down for you. What's happening is when they go out into the world and attempt to live a traditional life, they're constantly being told, these guys are constantly, meeting barriers, trying to live a traditional life. Now, when they go out here, I don't know where these conservative, traditional women that you're talking about are. I don't know where they congregate, but these are the complaints that guys give to me, that they have so much difficulty finding these type of women, especially in black culture. In black culture, we have an issue where there's this culture of promiscuity. There's this culture of the slut walk and all of those different type of things, where every single woman they encounter is part of the sexual revolution. So they're going to be a little more free sexually, and that's a nice way of putting it. So when these guys are out here actually looking for marriageable women, they're coming up short. They can't find any, because part of the new age way of thinking is that women should be able to do the things that men have traditionally done. And the sad part is, whenever you hear that, it's always women taking the most negative things of men and then touting that as empowerment. This is what the guys are encountering on a regular basis, where the women they want to do the same things, they want to have the same equality as men, which is fine. but they don't want the same accountability, the same responsibility. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you're willing to be in the right, have you heard of the? Have you heard of this? I know you've heard this saying. Have you heard of the saying, "Dress for the job that you want"?
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea is like you should carry yourself through life, like you're where you want to be, because that's how you're gonna find that place, essentially, right? I'll hear people say this like, "I don't know where to find conservative women," and then you like ask them, "Well, where are you looking?" And they're like, "Well, I've tried Tinder, I've gone on Bumble, I've gone on Hinge," and it's like, okay, do you go to a church? Like, do you have a community of like conservative friends? Have you been involved in any political or community organizing? Because like, especially in the Black community, right? Like, women are like the backbones of all of these things. And if you're looking for conservative people and you're in those areas, you'll find them there. But I feel like people aren't setting themselves up in a conservative lifestyle. Like, if you tell me you're looking for a conservative woman and you're not part of your local church, like, Jesus, that's like the number one place to start, right? Because these are where, off of churches, are where all of your community building activities are going to stem from. Every church has a bulletin board where people are doing things. A lot of churches are involved in like community outreach. You can volunteer. You meet a ton of people this way. But people aren't willing to go out and look for it. Yeah, but I feel like in terms of that type of advice, I never hear red pillars talking about that. It's always like the sexual marketplace and high value men are these things you have to do to exploit the dynamics of the evolutionary psychology of women so that you can fuck as many women as possible, and that's why you're going to be 1%. And like that's the message I hear over and over and over and over and over again. Rather than like look up your local archdiocese, start going to your church every Sunday, and when church ends, everybody's chatting with each other because that's what they do. Sometimes the priest or whatever will come out and talk to people, and you just like talk to people and you meet friends that way. Like that's how you organically grow a group of friends. But I don't hear that advice ever in the manosphere. I never hear that.
I hate the reason why you never hear that in the manosphere is because the biggest hoes usually go to church. They're usually the most promiscuous. They're usually the most trifling. Like guys wish it was that easy. They could just go to church and find a good wholesome girl at church. They can't. That's usually where the worst ones are at.
On average, do you think the women in church are going to be more promiscuous, or like women that are like at a bar or a club?
Bro, they do the same thing.
So every woman everywhere, there are no more conservative women.
They're twerking. They're twerking in church. When you look at the Black community, the vast majority of the men don't even go to church anymore. They've checked out, and the reason why they checked out is because of the ridiculousness that's going on in the church. You got the Baptist preacher actually having sex with women in the congregation. You've got women actually twerking in church. You've got the single mothers sitting on the front pew of the church. Like the church, especially in the Black community, I can't speak for the white community, but in the Black community, the church is lost, bro. It's done.
Where are all of these single moms coming from?
Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Well,
if the church is fucked because it's all like single moms and people like, it seems like it takes two to tango, right? Like it can't just be all on Black women, right?
Actually, no, it doesn't. Actually, no, it doesn't take two to tango. And the reason why is because what's going on in the Black community is you have a large group of women that are actually having sex with multiple men, having children with multiple men. You actually have twice as many women in the Black community have children as the men. Twice as many.
Yeah, but why is that? There are some cities where there's like 3 Black women for every 1 man that's not in jail, right? Like, I mean, like, depending on the city that you live in, the availability for some of these Black women to even find a guy, the competition is fierce.
There's a number of factors. The competition is very fierce, and there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, we have a small percentage of the population. Black women, last time I checked, outnumbered the men by about 3 or 4 million, something crazy like that. Part of the reason is because of Planned Parenthood. In our community, they actually go to Planned Parenthood to the tune of 367,000 per year. That's 1,000 every day. So already right there, you have a lower population of just Black people in general due to that. In addition to that, there has been an issue with mass incarceration thanks to good old Joe Biden with the 94 crime bill. So you have a lot of brothers that are locked up. So that diminishes the amount of black men as well. In addition to that, you have the cultural problem of black women not being very easy to get along with and not being easy to cohabitate with. So you have black men who seek relationships outside of the black race, outside of the country, with the passport bros, with SYSBM, all of those different things. So then you end up with an even lower amount. And what happens is you have sisters, you have black women out here that are more prone to deal with what people call the Pookies and the Ray Rays, and they'll go out here and they'll have kids, they'll have children with 1, 2, maybe even 3 different men. And the reason why that is because it's been incentivized by our government, unfortunately. A lot of these women are doing that in order to supplement their lifestyle with welfare, food stamps, child support, all of those different things. There's a bunch of different factors that weigh into that.
Okay, for whatever we want to blame black women for this, black men are just as culpable, right? We can complain about the mass incarceration from the 93 crime bill all we want, but Joe Biden doesn't make somebody sell weed. Joe Biden doesn't make somebody carry an unregistered firearm. Joe Biden doesn't make somebody a gangbanger. Like, these are choices that are still being made, that are being made by black men that fuck over black women in the community. And I think that the cultural problems stem from a lot of the kind of like dysfunction that goes back and forth there. I don't think it's fair to blame black women on everything. Like, we can talk about like food stamps and welfare and all that too, but that exists for black people and white people and every other type of person in the United States. But it seems like the black community has like a special problem with it, right?
Well, hold on. No, when we're talking about that, there are things that are very specific. Okay, one book written by what is her name? Elizabeth Hint, who I think went to Yale. I think she's a professor in African American studies at either Yale or I think Yale, if I'm not mistaken. She wrote From the War on Poverty to the War on Crime. And she pointed out through her research right after you actually have an overhauling of the criminal justice system where they started policing urban areas more heavily. This is right after the Industrial Revolution, where you have black people migrating into centers. You have them policing them more heavily. Okay, you actually have funneled into that criminal program. I forgot the name of it, but the purpose was to create probation officers, all of these different things to create a revolving door in the criminal justice system, which has affected the black community. So yeah, it's wrong for any black man to go out here and commit crimes and do things that he doesn't have any business. But it is over and over again that black men are disproportionately targeted by the criminal justice system, especially with particular crimes. When you have certain narcotics that black men get a harsher sentence for, or even worse when it comes to unaliving somebody. More often than not, when a white guy goes to jail for unaliving somebody, they end up getting a manslaughter charge as opposed to second degree or whatever. Play the victim Olympics. I'm just stating the facts. Like, any of this can be looked up. The research is out there. Yeah, so it's not. I agree. It's not just like right around the time that they overhauled the in 96, I'm not 96, in 65 and 66, you see a rise in single parent households. You see a rise in single parent households. You had a number of things that occurred that affect that. Industrial complex. You're just coming out of the Vietnam War, which a lot of black men lost their lives to that. And now you have this welfare program where if you have a man in the house, one of the stipulations is you don't qualify for those particular things, which during that time you had a really serious problem with poverty. So there's a number of factors that play into all that.
So, citing a woman who is a historian who went to Yale. So historians are important, right?
That is funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, sure. That book, America on Fire, I think, or the Poverty Water. But regardless of that, everything you said might be true, but none of that is black women's fault. I just don't think it's fair to blame black women. Like, you can't blame black women for men being aggressive. When police are policing these areas, black men are the ones that are engaging in the crime. The black women aren't. And I guess it just feels a little shitty to blame black women, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that get stuck with all of the community responsibility. They've got to be the backbone of all these families, of all these churches, of all these things that are like the only way these communities function are on the backs of these like single black women moms. And then say, well, hold on, let me finish. And then for black men to turn around and say, well, we got policed really heavily, and so we got caught selling drugs, and that's why you guys are all single moms, and that's why your lives are fucked up. But it's black women's fault for everything that happens in the black community. I think there's a lot of fault that could be evenly doled out to both sides. Is what I'd say. I wouldn't blame black women for it.
Okay, here's the thing with this, all right? There is so much nuance in all of that. One, you have a lot of guys that were caught selling drugs that weren't selling drugs. Okay, you have a lot of guys that have issues where they got pulled over and, oh, surprise, there's drugs in the car. Where did that come from? Okay, so that's one thing. There's nuance like that. Doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. All right. Then on top of that, when you're talking about it's not the black women's fault. Black women are willing participants in a system that they actually know for a fact is disproportionately prejudiced to their group of men. Okay, they know this. It's not a game. They go to these offices knowing that they can actually take advantage of the system by, oh, I'm in a relationship with a black man who ain't hitting on nothing and don't want to work and blah, 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 all of those different things. So we can't ignore that. We can't ignore that. Now, to sit here and say, oh, it's all black women's fault. I never said it was all black women's fault. But there is a large percentage of black women who have been incentivized to have children out of wedlock. They've been incentivized to utilize a system that they know benefits them. And they do this on a regular basis.
Okay, this is a quick one. Do you really believe that I want to have a kid so I get welfare?
Yes. I don't believe it. I know it. I don't believe it. I know it.
Why do black women do this, but not white women or Indian women or Asian women or other people?
Well, I don't know if white women do this or not. A lot of white women on welfare too. I can't speak for white women because I'm not part of that. I'm not part of that culture, but I know what I grew up around. I've heard the conversations amongst women. I've heard the things that they've said. One of the issues that I point out in my show, which is a real issue, during the time when Gen Xers were younger, boomer parents, you had this switch, like you talked about earlier, where the women started going to the workforce more. Well, one of the things that happened is a lot of the boomer women would use their daughters to with the household. So when mom goes off to work or whatever, her daughter is helping raise the siblings. And what I've had a lot of women tell me, a lot of black women tell me, and I know it's anecdotal, but I've had a lot of women tell me one of their escapes was to have sex, have a child with a guy, because then she can get Section 8 or she can get public housing. And now she can move out and get the hell away from her mama's house where her mother's forcing her to cook, clean, and do all of the housework. And they feel like slaves.
I would have to I hate to be like a nerd and be like, we should look up the stats, but like people don't. There might be some people that do this, but like single moms don't live glorious lives. Like, it sucks. Being a single mom sucks. You can get all the fucking welfare in the world, but nobody's living like a queen on Section 8 housing. Right? No, but I'm just saying, I don't think people are choosing like, oh, like I'm gonna finally move out of my mom's house by having a kid and getting welfare. I don't think people are making choices like that. I think it might happen, and then people collect welfare afterwards.
No, they actually are, because you don't. Here's the thing, because this is what you're not getting. It's not a choice that they're making because it's the best choice in the sense that when I do this, I'm gonna have an awesome life. You're already dealing with a group of people who are already at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder.
If this was true, why do black women do abortions more than any other group of people? Shouldn't they be having the most children then to take advantage of all the welfare?
Because there's numerous reasons for that too. For one, you have some women that genuinely don't really want to have kids. They like the party lifestyle. But the ones that do, they want to have those kids by a specific guy. Okay? Because some guys are going to bring more benefits than others. Okay? When it comes to child support, there are chicks out here in the black community, they'll get pregnant by a guy. If a chick gets pregnant by a guy that just enlisted in the military, she's not deleting that baby. It ain't going to happen. It ain't gonna happen because she knows that's definite child support. And look, this is not something that everybody talks about in polite society, but it's something that goes on a regular basis. I know this for a fact. I've had these experiences. Numerous men that I know have had these experiences. When I talked about this the other night on my show, there was a guy, Adam, that was telling me that, well, that's not true. I don't believe that. And then I literally had a black woman come onto my show and say, yes, her family has even told her to do that because she's in her 20s. She doesn't have any children, and at one point she needed a place to stay or whatever, and she said that the women in her family was basically scolding her. You need to go out here and find a guy that you don't really like that, get pregnant by him so that you can get all of the benefits that we do. They do this. I know it sounds crazy, but they do this. This is one of the things that the men in my culture have been constantly complaining about, and it's being treated like we're delusional.
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, to complain about it as a guy, just use birth control, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the smart guys out here. Look, if you look at black guys out here, the smart guys, they're not out here getting a bunch of women pregnant. They're not.
Well, but how are they getting pregnant?
Because there's literally 3 guys in Tennessee right now that have a total of 86 children by 34 different women. There are guys out here that have 10 children by 5 different women. There are guys out here, like when you go look at the CDC stats, when it comes to the deadbeat dads, that actually represents a small percentage of the black male population. It's about 8%, right? So what's happening is you have a number of women that are basically having children with multiple guys, but it's a very small percentage of the male population. It's not all of us. So what's happening is you end up with these guys out here, and I can't name how many times I've heard this, and it's crazy. I didn't even know it was a reality. I myself only have 3 children by 1 woman, right? So you have these guys out here that be like, yeah, my dad had 19 kids.
Why? Okay, then if women are choosing, if black women are choosing to get pregnant for the welfare and all that shit and child support, none of these women are getting child support then. If there's one guy knocking up like 30 fucking women, right? So why would they even do that? Why would they make these choices?
Because the way that system is structured, right? Even if you can't extract child support out of the guy, right? There are still numerous programs that you can get. I know a woman that had, I think she has like 10 children. Habitat for Humanity gave her a house.
Do you think that's the norm? But that's not the norm, right?
It's not the norm.
That people are getting free houses for having kids in black communities? No, I don't think so.
That's not the norm.
Here, I'm curious. How many? If we, and I'm not trying to I need 52.8%. I don't need an exact stat, but how many women do you think in the black community that get pregnant? How many of them, roughly, what percentage of them are just looking for a welfare check? Just so I can get an idea of where you think the scale is.
I could tell you how many are pregnant out of wedlock, which I think is a little above 70-some%. But so far as their motive, that would be a little harder to pin down. Because I'm not saying that all of them. What I'm saying is that is a cultural trend. And the reason why it's a trend is because you have women that will school their daughters to do that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kidding because I'm sure it's happened. I'm not gonna tell you it's never happened, But I'm just curious, like, where you think, like, do you think this is like 2% of the community, which would be pretty fucked up? Do you think it's like 50% of the community that's like super fucked up? Like, yeah, I'm just curious what you think like the number is, and then I'll do research on it later. I'll try to look it up, I guess.
I've literally never thought about, because where would you get a census for that?
Well, yeah, but the issue is that, like, yeah, I guess the issue is that you're content to blame, or it feels like it. I mean, I'm gonna bad rating, you're correct me, but it feels like you're content to blame the majority of the black community's problems on black women, but then you're relying on a lot of, like, I know a woman that told me this, I've got a friend that's done that, like, and it's like, okay, but how do you know that this is representative of the black community as a whole? Or how do you know that, like, in different towns or cities, like, this is how it works everywhere? Like, it seems like numbers or census data on that would be pretty important.
The reason why I know it is because every single time there's an issue with Section 8. Right now, recently they just had an issue with Section 8 where a lot of the landlords in Atlanta have stopped taking Section 8. So guess what? Black women are all across social media crying about it.
Well, but what does that show? I mean, like, if you genuinely need the assistance, of course you're going to cry about it, right?
It's not. It's some that genuinely need the assistance, but it's a lot that continue to live on it. These are people that live on the system the majority of their life. They're not using it in the sense that they're supposed to use it for, where, oh, I'm down bad, I have some issues, I can use this so that I can get on my feet. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're looking, finding loopholes to continue to be on that system perpetually. That's the problem.
I mean, if you have a kid, you're going to be on the system. If you're a single mom, of course you will be, right? You're not going to try to, like, get out of, like, Section 8 housing or assistance for your child if you're a single mom and your kid turns, like, 3 years old, right? I don't know. I don't see that, like, I don't see, like, single moms looking for assistance from the government as, like, a negative thing.
Here's the thing. Hold on 1 second. I got my guy, Patreon here. I'm gonna bring him up. I didn't just want to bring him up and have you feel like I'm ambushing you or whatever. But
yeah, no,
I know he wanted to get a piece of the conversation. Patriarch, what's going on,
man? Let me ask you a question, right? Justin, you said you can't blame, I guess, the failures on the black community on black women. Is that what you said? Can you refresh that for me?
Yeah, I don't think you can't like blame all the failures of the black community on black women. That's fair.
What about blaming the majority?
I don't think that's fair either, especially when it comes to child making, because it takes two to tango. It's men and women.
Correct, right? But the thing is, if you're telling me that in certain parts of the world, as you said, they outnumber men 3 to 1, why would you not then at least, I'm not saying blaming is going to do anything, but why would you not say that there's some responsibility for what it is that they're doing? Also,
because the question, wait, let me just answer that. Because the question is, why do they outnumber men 3 to 1? It's because a lot of the guys are getting locked up.
Okay, and I think that that is the man's fault as well, right?
Sure.
But in general, even outside of the men that are being locked up, there's 1 million more black women than there are black men, right? And in your earlier statements, you said that they were the backbone of the community. If you have a backbone of a community and the community is failing, then I think you have some ability to place responsibility on what you said that backbone was.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, they're not the backbone because women want to be the leaders of the black community, but that's essentially what's happened in a lot of these communities.
Tell that to the squad. If women don't want to be the leaders of the black community, it looks, as you said before, they're doing better in school. They're certainly making all the steps to become those.
They do, because they have to, because black men have failed them.
Okay.
Because black men are looking back to legislation from 30 years ago saying, Biden put drugs in my car, I had to carry a gun. Like, all of these communities that are being policed have just, well, like we said earlier, there's more black women than black men in these communities. Black women aren't selling drugs, black women aren't killing each other in the streets, black women aren't, getting fucked with drugs like Biden made them do. So to say that, like, black women are the fault because they're the backbones of these communities that are really rough to manage because black men have, like, fallen on themselves so much, I just think it's fair to say that, like, well, the problem is black women because they have to step up to try to manage these communities.
But it's, as you said before, it takes two to tango. So if why don't you share responsibility in that blame? I don't disagree with you, right? I personally think Biden's crime bill is very effective in terms of lowering crime. But what I'm saying is that if you make up, if I go to a community and you make up the majority voter base, right? Also, another reason why I think that the blame should be at least somewhat at somebody's feet is because who's consuming most of that welfare spending?
Yeah, well, it would make sense that black women are because black men run from their families, right? So of course.
No, that
But
is.
also real quick, when you say, I just want to be really quick. Wait, you can answer that, and I just want to be really quick. I'm not going to say black women are blameless. I'm just saying that like, the responsibility should be shared. It's probably a 50-50 thing because for every black man that stepped on a black woman after getting her pregnant, there's a black woman that fucked a black dude before getting married or deciding to use birth control, right? So I think there's equal blame there. But I wouldn't say that it's like most of it goes on black women. I said there's like 50-50
Well,
shared
here's the
responsibility.
thing. No, because you said something. We gotta clear that up. Black men do not run from their families. That is a total misnomer. And that is that is something that has been pushed for a very long time, and it is not accurate. As I stated before, when you go back to the 70s, you start to see black men leaving the households for numerous reasons. It wasn't just because they just decided, oh, you know what, I don't want to be a father. It's not true. They actually came out with a study, and the CDC numbers disproved that. So let's
Wait,
stop
CDC
it.
numbers disprove what? The black household having single moms is not like a myth.
No, I didn't say that. What I'm talking about is nowadays black fathers are actually in their children's lives more than any other demographic, even if they're not in the household. So,
no, come on, that's not true. I have looked it up. I know exactly the fucking PDF. Yeah, what they do is they do a whole bunch of like really clever number games to basically try to say that. I remember reading this thing, like truth about black fatherhood, and then it goes into stereotypes of black fathers. What they try to say is that like of the fathers that are absent in their child's lives, black fathers tend to be more involved than the other people that are uninvolved in their children's lives. But as a whole, for like whose fathers are more involved in their children's lives, the black community is the worst. Now, of the ones that are uninvolved, maybe the uninvolved, or maybe the black fathers that are out of the household are a bit better than like the white and the Asian and Indian black, or the Indian fathers that are out of the household. But as a whole, well, wait, hold on. You can't tell me that like it's so. Wait, quick. You can't tell me in one breath that I look around and I see all women are having children because I've got two friends that told me this for welfare, and then in the next breath say, well, I'm going to cite this like very esoteric analysis to prove that black men are just as involved with their children as everybody else, when everybody in the United States knows that's not true.
Yes, I can, because look, okay, first of all, what everybody in the United States knows is true is a whole other story, especially considering the fact that you have an entire media system that has spent the past 70 years dogging black men, which is another reason why we're talking so much shit nowadays. This is the whole reason that channels like mine exist, to speak truth to power and tell what's really going on, as opposed to the narrative that's being pushed that black men are just sorry. First and foremost, it doesn't matter how many women are on welfare. It does not mean that the fathers are not in their lives. I was in my child's life, and my kid's mother still went and got welfare. So that's not true.
I do
not
think
true.
That when you're talking about fathers running out, I do think that you're not really taking note of the court system, and they really don't have a choice when 90% of custody is awarded to the woman.
Yeah, but that's because the women are the ones taking care of the kids. Black
do you know
fathers,
that?
because
How do
this
you know that?
hold on. So let me just clearly state it. So you guys think that black fathers are being kept out of their child's lives because of the courts?
I think there are some.
Okay, wait, hold on. Some, when you say some, like 40% or 1%? I need you to quantify that for me.
Well, I can quantify that 90% of custody is awarded to women.
Okay, and I can quantify that less than 48% of black women get child support because their baby daddies don't even pay it. So I'm asking you, when we have an epidemic of single mother black families, do you think that most of those black men are being kept out because of custody arguments with judges?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's delusional. That's delusional.
But look at the ratio. When you literally have a system that will award a woman custody 90% of the time, you can't say every single time it was the man that didn't want to be there. The men don't have a choice when you know if you go into something, you're going to lose 90% of the time.
The reason why women are awarded custody most of the time is because women are usually the ones taking care of the kids.
It's
No,
by
that's
choice.
That's not true.
That's not true at
Of
all.
course. Wait, hold on. You're telling me. Let me hear that. You think that men and women in the black community take care of children at home equally? That it's just as likely for the woman to work or the man to work, and both of them are just as likely to be take care of the
Okay,
children.
What I'm saying is that the
Okay,
court
wait.
system.
Let me say this. First of all, the women are not taking care of the children. Most of these children are wards of the state. They may as well be. The state is taking care of those children. The food stamps is feeding them. Section 8 in public housing is putting a roof over their head. These women are not doing anything except presiding over these children. Not to mention the fact that there is an epidemic in the black community of children being abused. And if you go look up the stat on that, the majority of the time that they're being abused is when they're in the custody of their mothers. I just recently did a story about a mother who literally deleted her child, and when the police arrested her for it, she confessed the reason why I did it is because she loved her daddy more. Literally, she confessed.
I can't-
This is not even my opinion.
I can't argue with like the stories you give me. Like I can give you one story for every other story that you've got. I can't argue with that. If you think the majority of black men aren't in their households with their children because of like judges, I don't like. You could never give that. There's no stat. There's no way you could ever swear. That's just insane.
What I can do is I can look at where custody is being awarded. I can look at where the welfare money is being distributed. Right? I can look at, so for example, even what you said earlier about women getting houses, I can look up something as simple as Section 8 vouchers. You're making it seem like these women are just, that they just had to do this hard job of taking care of their child. If it wasn't for Section 8 welfare, food stamps, and a court system, you don't know what would happen.
Well, yeah, because working and taking care of a kid at the same time is not possible. You need help. You can't do that as a single parent. So when you say, where is the welfare money going? Probably going to the people that have the child, which is going to be the mothers, of course. But like Section 8 and food stamps is
Who's giving the mother the child?
I mean, both of them are, right?
We just said that the court system 90% of the time gives the child to you.
Why do you think 90% of the time the mother is getting the child?
Because I think our court system has a bias towards giving children to women and ruling against men.
So I just want to hear this statement because it's ridiculous. You think that at least 50% of those black men would have fought to keep their children over the mom? You think that?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what
I
to
think
say.
if those black men,
Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. If those black men would have been armed with daddy government to get Section 8 welfare, food stamps, WIC, PPP loans, tax write-offs, whatever, right? Look, anybody can take care of a kid if you give them all that stuff. And then when you have the court system ruling that you're going to get the child 90% of the time, the men are automatically from the rip eliminated.
Okay, so how do you square this away? And maybe you don't agree with the Anchorman and stuff. So maybe the Anchorman wants to amend his statement.
Yeah.
How do you square this away with the fact that it's only like a few black men are knocking up like 50 women? Like you're telling me those men, if it's only a few men that are fucking over all of women getting the babies, are those guys just trying to find a kid that they can actually keep, or what's going on there? Would that guy want to keep every child or what?
Those are the deadbeats. That's why I cited that stat. 80%. Those are the deadbeat guys.
Let me say something. The difference is, right, that those men don't get handouts from the government and sympathy from people such as yourself when they do those things.
Wait, but you could.
So you're telling me there's a massive amount of those men get the type of men that do that get Section 8 as much as women?
If you have a child, isn't the Section 8 qualification only based on income? And then you also get the same tax write-off. You get the same.
Look at how it's being distributed.
No, you can't ask me how it's being distributed because if more women are single moms than more dad are single dads, then of course more women are getting Section 8. Of course.
Who gives the child to the mom?
I mean, the
I'm
moms are
saying
taking
this.
care of it. How many of these guys have left before the kid is even born?
How do you know that? How can you quantify that?
We can literally look up numbers.
Go ahead, quantify how many dads leave don't put their name on the birth certificate. Versus how many men, we literally can find the data for men that lose custody of their children in court. Show me the data of men that leave their child at the hospital.
Okay, I can try to find this, but it's going to take me a little bit. I don't have this number like offhand, but I mean, I can try to find it. But why do black men have this unique problem, and all these same welfare systems exist for white people, for Indian people, for Asian people as well?
Why do black men have this unique problem? Did you really ask that
Well,
question?
number one, I do think so. Hold on a second. I will yield a couple points to what Destiny's talking about in terms of crime, right? I do think that there is a culture of crime that is present, right? But I do think that when you're it kind of is a chicken and egg conversation. I think that when you're raised in a single mom household, that it kind of is a cycle, right? That's what I honestly think. So I do see what he's saying in terms of crime, but at the same time, it's not like the court system. It's not like if a black father out there wants his child, that the courts, even if the mom is strung out, that the courts are going to do everything to make sure that black father is able to have his kid.
Well, here's the reality. These are the numbers when it comes to, well, not the numbers, but this is the reality when it comes to black families. When you have black families, when there's a structured black family where you have the father and the mother, the child is way more likely to succeed and not get in any trouble or things of that nature. Also, if the child is awarded, if the father is awarded custody of the child and he's being raised by a single father, he's less likely to get into trouble. The only time we see black men growing up and getting into a lot of trouble is when they're single mother raised. Now, the reason why this is, in my personal opinion, because I can't really quantify it, is because women of today are not really taking the time to actually teach those children. They're actually zoning out. They have the children in the household running buck wild, they go outside, they run buck wild, and they're not really playing a heavy role in those children's lives. So that's what's going on culturally.
Yeah, but the question is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at this number. So here, this is like, because I've never looked at like this particular data before, but listed someone here. Apparently, 32% of black newborns have no father listed on the birth certificate. Now, this is just one. This is just Cook County, Illinois, but damn,
That's one part.
that is one part. Do you have any numbers on how many black fathers are listed on the birth certificate?
I know that I have numbers on how many children are awarded custody to their mother.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
I still have 90%. You have 30%.
Yeah, but you don't know why the number is 90%. That's the whole part of that conversation.
And you don't know why that number's 30%.
Well, is it because they're
Maybe
all
the mom told him the wrong hospital. I mean, if you're just making up, we both could make up numbers.
Okay, I can't think of many reasons why somebody wouldn't be on a birth certificate. If you can't, well, maybe the father dies. I don't know if that'd be a reason to give off. I can't think of any reason why. If you can think of something, that's fine. Plus,
I can't think of a reason. Hold on a second. I can't think of a reason why 90% of custody should be awarded to women.
okay, I can give you a ton of reasons right now because women tend to be primary caregivers for children. Courts tend to prioritize the well-being of the child, and a lot of fathers that fuck a woman might just end up leaving completely. So there's like barely
How do you
even.
know the last one?
How do I know that fathers are more likely to leave mothers than mothers leave?
How do you know that with something that is that radical, with 90% to 10%, right? How do you know that every single one of those was a father that just did not want to be there? Okay, so if it's 90%, how do you know if even half of those were a father that just did not want to be in the child's life?
I don't know what the exact numbers are. If you're going to tell me that some men fight custody battles and they should win, but they lose because of a gender bias, that probably happens for sure. But when you look at a number like 90-10, that's not all sexism. A lot of that is going to be people awarded to mothers because the mother is the primary caregiver in that situation. I don't even know if the 90% figure is accurate. By the way, I'm trying to find a number on that.
I think it's like last time I checked, 90%. I'm rounding up, but I think it's like 88 or 89.
If you want to know where the 90% comes from, it's very simple. There are a lot of practices that go on in the court system that are still reminiscent of the past. It's still archaic. Okay, it's no different than the freaking marriage license. It's no different than any of that. We're still operating under the presumption that women are going to be better caregivers. That's the main reason. They automatically assume that when two people separate, the woman is going to remain in the house and the man is going to leave the house. So the court system does not want to uproot the child out of the house that they're used to living in and put them in another house.
Sure.
That's the
So here, like
now, hold on. Let me say this. For the 32%, that are not on the birth certificates, there's a few things that can be. One, the main reason is they could not know who the damn father is. That's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is you got so much promiscuity, because here's the thing, when it comes to black culture specifically, there are two things that are being promoted in our music, which has a huge effect on our culture, which is for the guys, gang culture, crime, drug dealing is constantly promoted. For the girls, promiscuity, acting like thoughts, that is constantly promoted. So when you have that going on, you have more young boys that are more prone to go out here and be part of gangs because they want to be part of something, or to go out here and sell drugs because they may have grown up with a mom that didn't have any money. And the other part of this is women tend to, when they're single mothers, they tend to look at their sons as a meal ticket. Oh, he's going to grow up and go do this, or he's going to go out and go do this and help with the household because that's the little man of the house, right? So you got that going on. On the flip side of that, you got the girls growing up, going out here, getting into the party lifestyle, all of that different stuff, getting pregnant. Sometimes they don't even know who the damn father is. Why do you think you had the emergence of these goofy shows back in the 90s where you are not the father, all of that goofy stuff? There's a lot of stuff that factors into that.
Okay, so nothing you told me can be proven, right? There's no number, there's no data. It's just like your stories. I can try to find stuff. I'm just digging around to see. But like, so here's a couple of things that I found, right? This is talking specifically about like that 90% figure. That the certain men's rights groups have made the claim, and now the fucking page. Certain men's rights groups have made this claim. It seems obvious enough, given that it's that Chicago Tribune thing that I linked. It seems this fucking dog shit ass fucking thing. Hold on one second.
All right.
It's giving
Still
me
don't know what an NFT is, but we got you.
It's all right. I could tell. If you need me to tell you what an NFT is, I can
That's my
explain.
favorite. That's my favorite episode with him, the NFT.
Jesus. Okay. Certain men's rights groups have repeatedly made this claim, okay, that mothers have an automatic advantage in custody cases. It seems obvious enough given that more than 90% of the children of divorced and single parents live with their mothers. But there's more to that statistic than meets the eye. Most divorcing or single fathers, roughly 90%, never ask for custody. In contested divorce and parentage custody cases, however, the father wins 60% of the time. So if that's true, that completely blows up your entire narrative.
Would you like me to ask? Would you like me to answer why that is?
Yeah, let me see that.
Because I can tell you why that is, if you really want to know.
Yeah, because usually
I
they don't
had
go
this-
to court because they don't have the funds and whatnot. But go ahead.
They don't. Here's
Wait,
the
and,
thing.
and single moms do have the funds to go to court?
Here's the thing. Oh, wait a minute. Here's the thing. Because I had this issue when I first got on YouTube in 2015. There was a guy that I used to deal with that would actually help guys go to court. And the problem he kept encountering is most guys did not want to go to court to fight for custody because they believed they would automatically lose.
But 60% win. Most fathers
But
win when they
don't
contest.
know that. That's the. this
Then
is the
that
point.
is another fault of black men. That's more
Wait,
black
wait,
men
hold
problems
on,
if they don't
hold
know
on.
that then.
Wait, hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. Not saying it's not their fault that they don't understand or educate themselves on what they can do in the court system. But you have to realize, for black men culturally, the court is a place where they believe they're always going to lose. Okay, that's just a cultural thing. All right, we can't get around that. Now,
There's no way to get around that. Come on.
No, I'm saying we can't get around the fact that that is a cultural thing they believe. Now, I constantly tell guys on my channel that you can go to court and win. And there are a lot of guys in the space that we're talking about who have went to court and won custody of their children. But most guys do not believe that they can do it. They believe that that's going to be a hard fight. In addition to the fact that the court system plays a lot of dirty tricks. A prime example is when a woman first goes to get child support. She goes to the court. She signs a affidavit. This affidavit states clearly that she has not received a single dollar from the named father, whoever she names as the father. She's saying that she's never seen a dollar from him. He's never given any support. Now, that initial court date, if the father is able to go to that court date and prove that he's given some money, then he'll win that case because she signed the affidavit. The problem is they don't serve fathers on that initial court date. And I know this because I went through it. You don't even know about that court date. If you're lucky enough to know about that court date, you can go and fight it. But what happens is you don't get served by a process server for that court date. Half the time, these fathers don't even know they're on child support until one day they look at their check and money's missing. And they're like, what's going on? Then they contact the child support division to find out what's going on. And it's like, oh, you owe child support. Then they give them, then they say, okay, well, when did this happen? Oh, well, you
Okay,
had
hold on.
court
I'm trying to.
date.
This sounds like completely not true because of my personal experience with legal.
I was-
Hold on,
one
wait,
second.
real quick, because I'm just looking this up. So this is saying that like when you're doing like custody battles, you are right that the court won't serve the person, but that's because it's your responsibility. If you like, you're not going to have your wages garnished for child support when you were never served anything. There's no possible way that's true. And this is saying here that if the other parent is not
that
served within
is
120
true.
days, your complaint will be dismissed
That
and you'll have to
is
start
true.
all over.
You don't even know. Hold on. See, you don't know
make a
because you
correction.
didn't go through it. Okay,
I can't argue against your story. I can only go by like what's
Number
true. When I can
one-
see like you, yeah.
Number one, wait a minute. Number one, here's the reality. You will get served papers after you owe child support. You'll get served, but the initial court date, you rarely ever get served those papers. They will not track you down, is what I'm saying. They will not track you down for you to come to that initial court date. And the reality is, this has happened to me a couple of times because I kept having the same issue where I'm like, okay, I'm taking care of my children, but then she goes to the court to do whatever. I don't get the initial paperwork. Then when I go to court, I have to explain this to the judge. I did not get the
Okay, here,
initial
real quick,
paperwork.
without going into the whole process, so I just want to understand this. You're telling me that you could have two people living together, everything is chill. One person could sneak off to court, they could file for sole custody, go back home to their parent, and months and everything could pass, and that whole process can be done without service ever being given to the party whose custody is being contested against.
Yes. You can look, here's the thing. They have what is called a TANF check, right? A woman can go and she can apply for a TANF check. And the reason why she's applying for this check is she's saying, I don't know who the father of my child is, right? Or the father of my child is not around. I don't know where he's at, right? So they say, okay, we'll give you
I'm
this
trying to like
check.
research
They'll
this
give
online.
them that
Everything is
check
saying the
for, I think,
opposite. Can
process
anybody
is
find like a
year,
source for
right?
this? Because I super
But the
can't.
amount of
I can't
money
find
that
anything
they
of this.
get
This sounds
for that
wild
year
to me.
is the equivalent of child support. And that money is stacked against the father in arrears. Now, that once that year is up, that check literally stops and it converts into a child support case. He's never went to court. There are dudes that are in households with women that went and did this because they didn't know any better. And now the guy that is living in the house with the woman owes child support to the woman that's in the same household as him.
I'm just trying to find like any like external thing. I'm just curious on this.
Yo, the court system is screwed up, bro. When it comes to child support, it is screwed up and it is biased.
Can I just address one of the articles Destiny put in the chat or the private chat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's the Chicago Tribune. One of the he was talking about the 60% of the time, others if they fight they win. It mentions here that some of that 6% is that go for the fathers are most likely to seek custody when the mother is egregiously unfit or dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And then it leads on to after that, many of the other cases result from the mother's financial inability to support the child.
Wait, either I'm lagging or he's
Of
lagging. I
course,
can't understand.
related to the father's.
You have to wait. You
I
have to.
think, which part? This last part?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
for
going in
me,
and
how-
out.
Okay,
yeah,
so
you're going
it says-
wrong because I just read it too.
What am I wrong on?
You're wrong for citing this, right? It's saying that the 60% is accounted by. That comes from people that are already married. In contested divorce custody cases, the father wins 60% of the time. We're not talking about cases where they're married.
No. The other comparison thing was uncontested. If 90% of children are divorced, single parents are living with their moms, and that's all uncontested because the dad never asked, well then of course that has nothing to do with the court. So that just goes to show that 90% of those time the children wanted to live with the mom, and the mom wanted to have the
But
children.
the point that you just made from this Chicago Tribune thing was that women were awarded, or men were awarded custody 60% of the time. Those are from divorce cases. Those are from cases where people have already been married. So you're ruling out, and if we're talking about the black community,
sentence. It says in contested divorce and parentage custody cases. It's accounting for that's divorce and parentage cases. So those are two.
Okay. So,
But my problem with this article though is that it'll try. I didn't finish saying it says many of the other cases result from the mother's financial inability to support the child,
It
and then it
says-
leads to say, of course, that often is closely related to the father's failure to pay child support. So even when the mother has an inability to support the child, it's still the man to blame. And did you know, Destiny, if a man doesn't pay child support, he could go to jail? And we're talking about men who can't pay child support, right? So now they can't pay child support because they literally don't have the money most of the time, and then they get sent to jail, and then they don't have the money anymore. Like a lot of these stuff happen, get caught up in the system that we can say is just on the men. They need to step up. But if you get put on child support where you don't even know you are on it, and now you don't want to pay it or you can't pay it, and you end up going to jail for something like this, like that's a little bit of nuance that you won't ever talk about.
Well, hold on. First, wait. Hold on. We can't have like 3 fucking people bouncing back and forth. I can't respond to anything. Okay. So, firstly, let's read this entire thing. Okay. Some of that 60% is accounted for by the fact that the fathers are most likely to seek custody when the mother is egregiously unfit or dysfunctional. This says some, so that implies less than 50%. Okay. So it's not just when the mother is fucking egregiously unfit or dysfunctional. Okay. When you talk about like going to jail for not paying child support you didn't even know that you owed, I've been through the child support process because me and my kid's mom are separated, and I wanted to do everything by the courts. My understanding from my personal experience is that both sides have to be served papers. You can't when you go to a court to file when the father is known. Now, if the father is unknown or something, that might be a different process. But when the father is known and you are seeking a relief from that person, when you go to file those papers, service has to be given to the other member of that complaint. It'll be listed on the paper. Like for the county clerk to like file the paperwork, pretty sure both people to be involved. Now, there might be some like extra cases where that is not the case. I'm Googling like crazy to try to find it, but every single thing that I'm seeing is saying you must serve papers. You have to serve papers. That you're not just going to wake up one day and have a child support order against you and like, holy fuck, I didn't even go to court for this ever. I've never seen that ever.
It says you have to serve papers, but is that look? There's a difference between service, right? One version of serving papers is delivering it, but another version is you got to sign for it. Okay, what I've noticed is that initial case, they went on with the case without me signing anything. Now, after that, when I had subsequent cases, I had to sign for the service. I had to sign for the paperwork. Okay, so I don't know what jurisdiction you're in, but in different jurisdictions they do things differently, right? Everybody knows different jurisdictions have different.
Okay, yeah, I live in Florida now. I know what Florida law is, and I was in Nebraska. I've had people serve me papers before. Service to me has required acknowledgement. Now, I could be wrong, and if somebody links me or whatever, I'll be like, okay, it's different here. Because it might be. I don't know the law. I agree with that 100%. But I would be surprised. You're telling me there are states where legal service can be dropping something off in a mailbox, and that's like service? I've served you papers? Because this is why, like in movies and shows and everything, somebody will find you at work. Be like, hey, here you go. You've been served. Like, you have these papers.
Yeah, but if you notice, look, I don't know what's going on. Like, I have an issue with it because I feel like service means that I should be signing for something. But every single time that has happened to me, and I'm not the only guy, I've had other guys tell me the same thing, that initial court date, the one where they could actually contest it, they didn't get service. They didn't even know. They didn't even know until after they owed it. And it's crazy because what happens, just like Sway just said, you know, when you don't know or you actually get locked up for it, whatever, you're not really locked up for child support, you're locked up for failing to adhere to a court order, right? That's the loophole because they're not supposed to be locking you up for owing child support.
Yeah, in California, you have to do. I mean, like if something happened to you, maybe you missed it, or maybe something happened, or I can't speak to your personal story, but like in every state I'm looking up, like according to the judicial branch of California, the party who chooses to begin the legal process must notify the other and must do so through the service of papers. Within the context of child custody, the parent seeking custody has to serve copies of their filed paperwork to the other parent. Like, I don't think you can just like say like, oh, I served them and now they're garnished and now they're getting locked up for child support.
We're dealing with the court system. And when you're dealing with the court system, there's a whole lot of loopholes that are used for numerous purposes. And like patriarchy said a second ago, it is biased in favor of the women.
I don't believe any of this. If you guys want to like link me something, or whatever, that's fine. But we can't just keep saying it's biased. This is my story.
Destiny,
yeah, go for
Destiny,
it. Okay.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The link that you just, so I'm gonna post something right now.
Mhm.
What year did that article come out that you posted from the Chicago Tribune?
From '94.
1994. Okay, I have something right here that is a little bit more recent. So I will say this, right? What I'm saying right now is still 60% awarded to women. When I said 90%, I made a mistake. I was thinking about child support payments, right? Like 90% of child support payments, 90% of alimony goes to women. Sometimes I get that confused. But right here, it's still saying the overwhelming majority, and this is 2018, the overwhelming majority, and I posted two, the overwhelming majority is still going to women. And that's more recent than 1994.
Sure, but now the question is, are these in contested custody battles, or is this just on who's asking for custody, right? Well, I can actually, I'll just click through and I can check. Hold on.
Because I posted one, I think, before too.
See, I came up here because I mean, we can get into the whole, you know, custody and child support system and all that. But I mean, if we're going to talk about single mothers and absentee fathers, is there no choice behind having a child?
Yeah, there is. There's a choice for men and women. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't just blame black
There's a-
women. There's an attack on both sides there, I think. Also, just real quick, so this thing doesn't talk about like in custody fights. This
I
could just
actually
be
got the
that.
census. I just posted the census one because I want to go direct to the primary source.
Yeah,
So
sure.
this is
I clicked through to this too, but just real quick, there's like 19 pages. Like I can scroll through and look, but like it's gonna take me a sec. But like because I control left in this, I tried to find contested, control F contested, and this doesn't look like it's talking about contested custody. This is just talking about where do the children tend to live. But,
Okay, but it doesn't talk about where it's awarded. Let me look through it myself. Hold on.
So I bring that up because Destiny, I don't know if you are very hip to what goes on in the black community. I don't expect you to be, but as a common narrative, even before I was born, that I don't need a man and I can do all bad by myself. I can raise a kid by myself. I don't need a man to raise a child. There are videos from early as the 60s to the 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s that show multiple times black women saying, I don't need a man in my life to raise these kids.
yeah, but where did that come from?
They're
They're in the streets, right? Yeah, so it's not surprising.
This comes before